conducting this war in a proper sense. He's not. He did it incorrectly. So I guess my main position right now to see, I'm just like a vibe check for you, is do you think that Iran should be overthrown? Or do you think that's what the Democratic Party should push for? Or what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, if we were going to overthrow Iran, it would have to be part of like a broader like vision for the Middle East of what it should look like and then why we're doing it. And I think we would have an obligation to sell that idea to NATO or the world, like either NATO or to the United Nations, or at the very least to the American citizenry. I don't know why we would, or what is supposed to come next, or what that means.
I mean, I think the difference between Iran and many other countries who have been overthrown, have gone through regime change, like Libya or Syria, like even to use like the meme term, is that Iran has like, I'm pretty sure you've heard this. Iran has like a different like governmental structure. So of course there's the IRGC, there's the ruling mullahs, there's the Shia ulama who kind of control the government, but also there's the Majlis, the parliament, the Iranian parliament. And Iranian society, despite the sanctions, despite like all like the fucking around with the in Lebanon, Syria, all the money going to like foreign terrorist groups, I think that Iran is especially poised to kind of transition into democracy. The issue though is that the Iranian people and the Iranian parliament don't have the means for themselves to do that. Like they don't have like the military arms. Like the Iranian army is not entirely controlled, obviously, by the parliament. The Ayatollah has full control of the IRGC, and the IRGC has like a lot of like power over the Iranian military. So I think the issue is with this current war is that I think the Netanyahu government and the United States under Donald Trump, they were thinking that like Kiriakou said this, even though he is a Russian agent, I've been watching, and that like the Iranian government would collapse like a house of cards. But they've been more resistant to that sort of regime change. So I think Iran, like rather than Syria or like other countries, is more available to some sort of like democratic like transition. But yeah, so like I do think that the NATO and other organizations should like kind of help with that. But I'm just sort of, would you be against like an Iranian regime change? Like
I don't know what you're talking. I feel like this is very, very, very vague. Like help with that. I mean, if the people wanted assistance or something, changing to some kind of like more democratic form of government, sure, but that's a lot different than like an invasion and violent regime change, no?
Yeah, that's very different. I don't think this is the issue. Like there's an issue with like putting troops on the ground, obviously, but at the same time, I think that there should be like some sort of mechanism built up, whether that be funding of Iranian rebels. Like the intelligence services in the military have been very good at like funding of foreign rebellions. Like for example, like it was like the Israelis in Lebanon during the Lebanese Civil War, they funded the Christian Phalangist militias, and that helped kind of transition. It didn't help Lebanon, but it kind of helped protect the Christian minority. I just want to see like whether that could be possible in Iran, and
I don't know. I feel like, especially given the interest that the U.S. has in the region, like any regime change stuff that we're going to be looking towards, the only if I was in the Middle East, I would never trust the U.S. for regime change in the Middle East, right? The governments that all exist in the Middle East right now are there largely at the behest of, and to serve the interests of, to some extent, the American government. Saddam Hussein was ousted from Iraq, and the government that we put in there afterwards is supposed to be American favored. Obviously, the Saudi Arabian government is an American-supported monarch. The Jordanian monarch is there, is largely supportive of the U.S. government. Egypt, and that government gets paid tons of money to be supportive of U.S. interests. So when you're looking, and Assad is gone, who is also contradictory to U.S. interests. So if you were somebody in Iran and the United States came by looking for regime change, why would you assume that the United States has your interest in any way, size, shape, or form when it comes to regime change? I mean, like they could, and it could end up being good, but like I would never trust the U.S. interest there. No.
I feel like we have to gauge what the Iranian people think, and I think a lot of Iranian people are against the the Ayatollah and the ruling class at the moment. But at the same time, some of the examples you use, like I think Assad was, yeah, he was contrary to American interests, but at the same time, he was overthrown by the Syrian people, and Obama had a very hands-off role in that overthrow. The Syrian people essentially did it by themselves, or what you call the Syrian people, most of the Sunni plurality or the Sunni majority. So, like, what I'm saying is that, like, yes, you cannot trust. A lot of people have this mistrust of the United States and their foreign policy in the Middle East. But at the same time, I do think that if there was a way for the United States to kind of, and it's kind of vague, I feel like if there was like funding of the, like turning Iranian protesters and students who are protesting.
Why not? How about like, can't we? There's got to be a way to do things where the first step just isn't like fucking, like, violent overthrows of the government. Like, how about like, are there, like, I've never heard, maybe these are names and I just haven't heard it before, but I've never heard it suggested, like, who are the alternative leaders in that could be leading like a new Iran? Like, where are the other people that have kind of like stepped up to say, you know, like, this is our example of like a parallel government, or this is somebody else who we think would do a better job? Like, if the Iranian people don't even have that picked out, what would the United States have?
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. I think the leader of the Iranian parliament and there was moderates within the Iranian parliament, like Ahmadinejad, who could have been kind of like a pseudo leader, like of a transitionary government from autocracy to democracy. But obviously, with the attacks on Iranian sovereignty by the United States and the pulling out of the JCPOA, the Iranian nuclear deal, a lot of radicals were kind of empowered by those decisions. But I guess there are protest leaders in the streets. But I guess the main issue with all of this, obviously, is one you said, is who is going to lead. I think like, if we're going back to historical examples, like in 1905 to 1911, during the constitutional kind of revolution over there in Iran, a lot of Iranians put their trust in kind of like the merchant classes of Iran, and they served as like a counterbalance from the Shia ulama who wanted to kind of Islamize Iran. And I guess that kind of sort of can be replicated in a sense. Like, if you took some of like the more urban proletariat and some of the merchant leaders, like the most like prolific, like kind of like business entrepreneurs, and if you kind of put them in place of Iran in the Iranian transitionary government, that could be a positive. But I'm very curious. Like, do you have any like like substantive like disagreements with the fact that Iran should be overthrown?
It just depends on what you mean about overthrown. It feels like what you're really asking is in a very long way is like, do you dislike the current government? And I would say, yeah, I dislike the current government. But that that's still a long way from, I think the U.S. should overthrow the current government.
I feel like the current government, the only reason kind of why the current government is so empowered is because of the actions of Donald Trump. They kind of gain legitimacy from the fact that the U.S. has been conducting this war improperly, and they kind of gain legitimacy over the fact that, like you said, the United States is not a trusted actor in Iran or the Middle East. But yeah, I just want to run that argument through you. I also have another argument for you, if that's okay. I feel like that was
sure. What's that?
In regards to Turkey, I typed in chat 3 or 4 weeks ago that there's a difference between the Ottoman Empire and Turkey, and you said something along the lines of, well, they're very, very, to be charitable, they're very congruent with each other, and I disagree with that analysis.
Okay.
I think when I said that specifically the Armenian genocide was conducted by the Ottoman Empire, and therefore Turkey doesn't hold, the modern state of Turkey doesn't hold as much of the blame for the Armenian genocide, is specifically because the 3 pashas of the Young Turks who committed the Armenian genocide, Enver Pasha, Jamal Pasha, and the other one's name is escaping me. But the reason why Turkey doesn't hold as much of the blame is because these pashas were then subsequently held for trials in the Ankara tribunal, and these people were either assassinated or faced substantial real prison sentences. And I think that the Ottoman Empire is substantially different from Turkey in both the minutia and the broader scope. Even though Turkey was like a kind of pseudo successor state. So you do you like would you disagree with that? Like,
I mean,
I
like
feel
they got to. I mean, they.
yeah.
I don't know what the in terms of accountability. I don't know what that actually ended up being. You say
Well, there was
assassinated. I don't know if assassination is a form of government accountability, but I mean, like the fact is that like, I mean, the Ottomans were Turks and they ran the Ottoman Empire, and then they got to inherit a state that was luckily cleansed of everybody that they didn't want in it, like in terms of ethnicity. So I mean, we can say that I guess like the Ottomans just did this oopsie genocide, oopsie massive population transfer, and then afterwards some people were held accountable, but the nation of Turkey got to benefit completely from all of that, and now they basically had their state designed for them, and then
well, like the difference between the Pashas and Turkey is that Ataturk specifically, due to his involvement in Gallipoli while he was stationed in Gallipoli, while the other Pashas were running amok, hanging Arabs in Lebanon and Syria and Palestine, and conducting the Armenian genocide, is that when Ataturk finally came to power during the 1920s Turkish Independence War, is that he specifically cleansed the Turkish government with his new secular government from the influence of the Young Turks. So what he did essentially.
Well, yeah, but hold on, wait. So, question, and I have to go back and reread because it's been I've barely done much Turkish history. But when you say he got rid of like these other,
they prevented them. Yes.
Sure, but hold on. Was it because he was like he viewed their actions against like the Armenians and everything as disgusting and horrible, or was it because they were the political opposition and he just wanted to rule with his own party?
It was both. It was both. He viewed the Armenian genocide as obviously like a crime against humanity and like a uniquely bad crime, a bad deed conducted by the Ottomans, and he kind of viewed it like as the same thing. Like he could build a Turkish state with a vast majority of Turks. But what he did was the difference between the Young Turks and Ataturk is that the Young Turks were Turkish ethnic nationalists and they had a lot of Islamic elements to them. Ataturk was purely secular, and he disliked the fact that a lot of the pashas of the Young Turks kind of used religion as a cudgel against minorities. Now that the minorities were gone during the Greek population transfers, they obviously benefited him. But at the same time, I think that Ataturk, he was a very different figure from the Young Turk pashas. Like, how do I explain this?
Well, I mean, I guess I can take it. I don't know, like, I don't know in detail for any of this, so I can't deny any of it. So I mean, sure, but
I guess a good caveat for that is a large part of Turkish academia and the government, they do still deny the Ottoman genocide. That's because of like it's like no one really wants to take accountability, mostly because of the fact that like it's a huge stain on.
Careful. On what?
Kind of the Turkish history.
Well, but I thought but wasn't the whole argument that the Ottomans and the Turks were two totally different groups of people?
Oh, they were totally different.
I'm getting trolled now.
It was a stain on Turkish history because trolled by who?
Your mic you're lagging or dropping out or something is.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Have you hear me?
I apologize.
Oh my God, I'm a Greek. No, what you said is bullshit. Ataturk participated in massacres against Armenians and Greeks. He was a military officer in Gallipoli who participated in actual massacres in ethnic cleansings against Armenian in Anatolia and in Greeks as well. Like,
he didn't. Wait, hold on. He was stationed in Gallipoli during the Armenian genocide. Yes, he could have conducted.
Yes, he participated in actual massacres. Read the book. Right.
What? Okay.
Bruh. Okay.
Okay. I'll keep all this in mind. I'll do Turkish history at some point. Maybe.
Okay.